So I guess I'll begin by discussing my relationship with Winifred Barton. I would say about close to 20 years ago now, back around the year 2001, back when the world really went through some changes and society had some realizations. Um, I discovered the writings and the work of Winifred Barton online. Now, I discovered the Winifred Barton works by kind of searching within myself, and I was kind of curious. The internet was new. I realized I could, at that time, Google was new. It was a little bit different. You could really, for the first time across time, and I lived most of my life without having the internet. So the internet came along in my late teens in its current form. And really, the internet represented the opportunity to ask a question. It wasn't like you could ask a question like now, like you could ask your Google Assistant or Siri, or I mean, it was different. You had to type in what you were looking for, and it wasn't necessarily that you could form it as a question and the AI would come back with an answer. It was that if you could imagine what you would like to know, if you whatever you could come up with, questions before really mundane questions, like if you wanted to know, uh, what the distance between the sun and the moon at any given point was, or if you wanted to know the difference between uh, you know uh, objects or measurements, or but literally you could find out things. You could search for spirituality, you could search for religion, you could learn online, you could learn about theology, you could look for your higher self. If you wanted to know, you could just Google higher self and you would get information. You could find out about Rastafari, and you could find out about you could study things that were never discussed in my life about Christ, or just about life in general and the school of life. And but there were so many, even in the initial stages. There were it was without it was pre YouTube. It was pre, like it was before you could just, like, now if you're on YouTube, you want to know how to replace a faucet, you can go on YouTube and you can probably look up the exact model you're looking for, and someone has done it. But in the early stages, it was more basic. It was I mean, you could there wasn't much of a video online presence like that at that point. Uh, but you could find out information, and there was a lot of static web pages. It was all pretty much static web pages with people that had kind of like been the first through the door, who got online and had something to share. And so one of the early pages I found along the way was a page that was a separate page, unrelated to, not related to Winifred Barton directly at all, called "Discover Your Infinite Side" by Herve de Signy, and he was a Brazilian, and he described himself as a shaman, or a practicing shaman, and he talked about life, and he talked about elements, he talked about pretty much everything, any subject you could think of. It was discussed in that context. So I was searching and I was finding things and I was learning, and I learned about a name, the name that is referenced in Book of Hebrews, and really in Genesis. But I didn't learn about it. It didn't stand out to me there. Where I learned about it was just online, looking for, um, just trying to discover, spiritual cosmic beings, higher self, other dimensions. I was curious. I just thought this technology that was the internet, that came really from a world where it was hard. You couldn't explain to yourself, like, if I tried to explain to myself before the internet existed without experience in it, it would be difficult to understand. It was like, so it was like a dream. The internet's like a dream come true for somebody. And it really, even to this day, when you think about it, how we're describing and discussing, and how you're watching me, goes through a tiny uh, it goes through a tiny wire. It breaks down on one end and it turns into numbers and breaks down on the other end. Like I really, I only have such a basic understanding of the internet, and I'm a 2021, person living here, and the internet's been around for like decades now, and if it all disappeared right now, I don't know one person who could just go around and collect things and build the internet again. Come to think of it, I don't know anyone, if all the systems shut down, who could just go around and build any of the technology we have again. It's like all this stuff just sort of, arrives from within, and it hits the right person, and then it received the right way. So it was on this journey where I was looking for things back, when I was discovering my infinite side, that I like to draw, and I used to like to draw, sort of like geometric objects and shapes, and I was interested in drawing that kind of stuff. I found it kind of interesting. I just kind of did it, and it was almost like doodling, but it was like it just sort of became, I was kind of fascinated by the shape of the flower of life and the tree of life, and these things kind of revealed themselves through various searches. And at one point in time, I kind of was drawn, and I was looking, and I was clicking through, and I was just searching, going kind of leaping from one website to another, and kind of just looking for positive energy, really looking for positive energy, and just looking for someone who believed in unconditional love and positive energy, and just looking online to learn what the mystery about this. Who am I? Who are we? What is the mystery of life? And I was looking, and I'm looking at that time, and I discovered, I actually seen the image first. I seen this image that was like pretty much the same as what I was drawing, and it was the shape of a hexagon, with dots, kind of like a hexagon cube, six sides, 6 points, and I was drawn into that, to that image, really. And where I went into was, I ended up going into a page that was connected to Winifred Barton, and Winifred Barton was, the founder, the reason the Bart she had a non-profit organization named after her, in her, created with her, by her, called the Bartonian Metaphysical Society. And Winifred Barton had this cube and on her as a logo. And as I get in, I didn't know really. I just knew, and as I looked in, I just could see a lot of what I was experiencing, and what I was, the things I was feeling within and trying to express, and writing about, really, on message boards with people, having interactions with people. Because at that time there were message boards. There were chat rooms, but message boards were in non-real time. So you'd message somebody on a message board, and when the time was right, when it synchronized together, and they were, in that spot, you get an answer from somebody, or you get a response, an answer, but you're not an answer necessarily, but a response. And so conversations happened in non-real time, very much like emails, kind of like you get to your email, or texting, really. There was no texting at that time. There was no texting in 2000, 2001, at least not in my life. And if there was, it must have been an early prototype of texting, because like walking around with a cell phone and looking at your phone and getting text, it didn't develop yet. Nowhere near the same as today is. And it's hardly discussed. I mean, we move so quick. We don't discuss like any of that, but that's okay. But Winifred Barton turned out to be someone who I identified a lot with. Winifred Barton had written many books. She was a teacher in metaphysics, I would later find out that Winifred Barton had worked for the government of Canada. She had worked for the United Nations. She was her and her husband, first husband, were in her and her original husband were both in World War II. Her husband died, and she moved to Canada, and that's where she started began the Canadian events. Winifred Barton had a near-death experience when she was young. She sort of lived an incredible life with the amazing ability to tell stories and retain a storyline and just continuous, this continuous, continuity, stability. She was just steady all the way across. Just sort of the whole time. Her whole thing never changed. Her personality didn't change, and right until she lived into into her 90s, and then she crossed over. She crossed over, and that's what she would say. I mean, she was. We didn't die. We were crossing over. And Winifred was a very, she made herself available to me. I received, a letter one time in the mail sent to my parents' home in Glace Bay, and I really, inside of the letter was a map of the cosmic cube, a diagram, circular spiraling staircase diagram, a miniature disc with the cosmic cube on it, and various other files that tied in together with it. The living cosmic cube is what it said on the inside of the disc. I have the disc. I'll show it at another point. A picture of herself, a card. She sent me a business card, a United Nations business card that I still have. And I would actually end up going on to a radio show that was broadcast across Santa Barbara and farther beyond that, with Match Event Melchizedek, Winifred Barton, Linda Mary Coombs, and myself. And we went on KPFK, it was the channel, and it was a show called Truth Seekers, and it became Truth Seekers with an R. The creator of the show always never really liked that it was Truth Seekers, AS. Now they're still making shows, Truth Seekers, Santana Buddha Westbrook, the Supreme, Buddha Supreme, Santana Westbrook. It was all synchronized together. These shows were broadcast live on the West Coast at around midnight at the time. And it was sort of a popular show that was listened to. It was like the after hours crowd, kind of transitioning from one part of the night to the other. This would be on KPFK. And so for me on the East Coast, where I would be, and Winifred was only on Eastern time zone, I was Atlantic. And Machiventa, of course, was somewhere in the Central time zone in the United States. I think he was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And we went on. It had to be 4:00 in the morning, I guess, when we were going on. So, but we were up in the morning. We did this show and we broadcasted. It was a real, when I look back on it and I look at it as it is, I'm looking at it, that time is just that time is standing, and we kind of look at all time like a single event, and it's there and it exists, and some things I'd like to share, and that's really, I guess, the basics of besides so many correspondence and just Winifred Barton. That's a big name to me in the Galactic Federation of Life Forces, and the Galactic Federation of Life Forces are within. There are universes within us. We're made up of just like Big Bang 1, or the Big Bang as we think of it, created all this infinite space. Well, there's another Big Bang that balances that Big Bang, and that creates all this infinite space within. And the infinite space within, um, like this, is infinite. It's it's you look within for the truth. Look within for guidance, and that's where you'll find it. And I mean, you can listen to me, and you take what I'm saying, and, discern it. If it's not right for you, just discard it. I'm speaking from my heart. I have no prepared script here, and I'm trying to just share. I am sharing, and I appreciate you sharing this experience with me. Infinite peace and infinite divine light, divine love, divine happiness flowing from infinitely within us. Bless us all here now. And I thank God the process is perfect. And I cannot break the law. I can only break myself against the law. And that's it for now. And I'll continue. I have so much more I could share, I guess, about my perspective of the Galactic Federation of Light Forces. But just that it's in the news now that a top official in Israel has come out and said that the Galactic Federation of Light Force, or the Galactic Federation, is a real thing. Oh, it is a real thing. And the outer world is not really where things begin, and it's not really where movement happens. And it's where it reflects. Life flows from within and reflects in the world around us. Infinity within reflects as the infinite life we see reflecting around us. For me to look eye to eye with you would be truly to look at an infinite reflection of myself. And we are one, and we have one blood. And let's see where we can go next. And I appreciate you taking your time and listening. And if you're interested in what I'm saying, please subscribe. Hit the subscription button. Just then we'll share. You'll get the next message. Like if you're interested, and like it. Share it. Like it so that other people can see it. We're just gonna have a conversation about the series expose, the Melchizedek Spirit Newswire services. Holy Guardian Angel guided, protecting us from all the negative or anything that could be, and we're riding along here into the positive here now. And thank you.